first game, now wasn't it?
I was really impressed at how well Pentachill did. They were winning the laning phase, not just going even with Evo. They were winning the laning phase. Unfortunately, when it came to the team fighting phase, they didn't execute quite as well as Evo. They ended up losing two really big dragon fights, but they played extremely well in the first 20 minutes of that game. Like I said, they weren't just even; they were actually ahead and winning that game. And if they can manage to do better in the team fighting phase, we might have a real match here on our hands. But they looked good in that first match, I thought.
Yeah, they definitely had the map presence down pat for the mid and the early stages of the game. Scalaman on that Nocturne was super, super strong with his ganks and babysitting that top lane, despite Darius really taking it to Jax. Jax had 7 assists and Darius had 5 kills, but just the farming potential of TSM Evo and just staying a little bit more defensive despite being behind in kills. As soon as the late game really kicked into high gear, they started pushing back Pentachill, and like you said, in those team fights right there, they just had a little bit too much advantage. So we do see in the picks and bans process immediately, Pentachill is going to ban out Urgot, and interestingly enough, banning out the Nocturne that did so much work for them last game. I'm very interested to see that because I thought that the Nocturne was one of the reasons why they were doing so strong that game.
I felt so too. Their Nocturne play was excellent in that game. As you mentioned, Scallon their jungler, played very, very well on Nocturne. So I'm a little bit surprised to see that they would use one of their bans on that. I am not surprised at all that one of their bans is on Urgot because they did have some very real problems with Aphromu's Urgot. Not in the laning phase, which they handled very well, but in the team fighting phase, Aphromu picked up a lot of kills and he was almost unkillable once he got all that armor stacked. He actually had over 300 armor on Urgot by the end of that game. So I'm not surprised to see that. I'm a little bit surprised to see the Nocturne ban. And then we've got a run on support bans here, Tom. We've got Alistar, Soraka, and Janna all banned out. So we're going to see some interesting support picks in this game.
Yeah, apparently no one really likes the support characters. But on top of this, we also see Shen, which is a powerful top laner and sometimes jungler pick that we saw being played a lot by Hotshot GG at MLG Anaheim. So Shen being banned out, we have the 3 support picks being banned out, and then of course the Urgot and Nocturne. Very perplexed at the Nocturne, very convinced as to why they picked the Urgot. So immediately it looks like that Pentachill is going to pick up a Graves pick. Graves, of course, a very, very strong AD carry. We talked about last game how he did get a little bit of a rework as his buckshot's not going to be dealing as much base damage, but if you hit all 3 shots on the same target, it will be dealing a 10% increased damage up to 35%. So very nice choice for Graves in the bottom lane. And Aphromu actually going with Varus, which is very interesting because if you ever log on to solomid.net, you just get that big ad in the top for Aphromu's Varus guide. I can't wait to see it like kicked into high gear. And Nat Win picking up Tarot this time means that they are going to have the armor advantage and they are going to have the hard CC. Meanwhile, it looks like I'm Not Gonna Raichu is actually picking up Lulu, so we swapped supports for the teams from last game, Sala.
Yes, we do. We actually have a straight swap on the 2 supports. Very interesting to see. Varus is still one of the newest ADs, so we don't know him nearly as well. He actually hasn't been played too much competitively as yet. He's he's really good at poking enemy champions. He has great range. It feels as though people feel his damage is a little bit lacking once you get out of lane. But as you said, I'm very interested to see how Aphromu will play him. Aphromu is an excellent AD player. I'm going to be very interested to see just how he plays this. And we actually now see Nunu coming out as well. So we're going to be really curious as to where Nunu is. We know that Amumu is going to be jungling over there on their team, presumably. So Nunu, this may actually be an AP Nunu in middle lane, which is a very unorthodox pick.
We could have AP Nunu middle lane. We could have Nunu in the top lane. We don't know where Nunu is going to go, but I'm pretty sure that Pentachill does not really know how to react to this. And it looks like Tangy Time is contemplating a Singed, and if that Nunu was going top lane, I don't really know how to analyze that matchup between him and Singe. It looks like it's just going to be Singe farming minions and Nunu just slowing him down and letting his poison tick off even more. But I was kind of expecting Pentachill to pick up the Nautilus jungler after they banned out the Nocturne. Very surprising that TSM Evo didn't actually go for that when Nautilus was doing a lot of work towards the end stages of the game. But Unstoppable picking up Amumu. Amumu is such a strong jungler at this point in time. He has the bandage toss to really close distances and land a stun. He has percentage of HP damage on the Despair. Tantrum, he's going to be dealing more DPS the more damage he takes because of the cooldown reduction. And of course his ultimate, the Curse of the Sad Mummy, pretty much uncontested. And with that Nunu ultimate combined, they have a lot of AoE damage potential.
Yeah, we're seeing a double AP team comp coming out from Pentachill with Kennen and Anivia. Not really sort of the standard double APs. You usually see an AP like Vladimir has been quite popular, or someone like Karthus. On the other side, TSM Evo, I have the feeling we're being trolled here by TSM Evo that they are not exactly running their sort of top of the line champion lineup here, because right now they really have too many supports to fit lanes. since both all Blitzcrank, Nunu, and Tarek are all usually played as supports right now. So someone is going to have to be in those solo lanes. It looks like Salsi's going to be playing AP Nunu. AP Nunu is actually very strong in lane. You max your snowball first, and the snowball deals a lot of damage. So if you don't have any kind of sustain in mid, it can be really difficult to deal with. Now the problem with that is once you get out of the laning phase, AP Nunu tends to be fairly worthless just because he can only do two things. He can snowball and he can use his ultimate. So as long as you have some kind of way to disrupt his ultimate, he really doesn't do that much outside of lane. So that's why you don't really see this picked. It also looks like we're going to have a solo top Blitzcrank, which is extremely unorthodox. And it's going to be Blitzcrank probably against Kennen in top lane, it looks like. So I've seen a lot of League of Legends. I don't know that I've ever seen that particular solo lane matchup, the Kennen versus Blitzcrank in top lane, but it should make for a fairly interesting game. And then that middle lane, we're going to have a lot of ice and snow between Anivia and Nunu matched up there.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a cold, hard match in the middle lane there. But it's interesting enough. I thought with the Blitzcrank pick, they're going to swap and have Saucy play AP middle Blitzcrank. Last night, TSM Evo was scrimming against MTWNA, and Saucy was unable to attend, so they picked up Skara to play in their middle lane. And I thought maybe with his AP Blitzcrank in the middle, he left some sort of lasting impression on TSM Evo. But unfortunately, my dreams have not come true, and it looks like Wings of Death is going to be taking Blitzcrank into the top lane. I'm actually going to click on his profile and try to check his runes and masteries to see, are we going to see an AP Blitzcrank? Are we going to see some sort of weird Bruiser Blitzcrank going against Kennen?
I would guess that it's more of the Bruiser Blitzcrank build. This is from way back in the day, but you can build Manamune into Triforce on Blitzcrank, and he actually does deal quite a bit of damage if you do that. The problem is, can you farm up the items in order to do that? Because Blitz is not a very good solo laner just because he has no sustain whatsoever is sort of the problem there. But I have seen it done before, although not in a long time. I think the one thing we're overlooking now is we do have the AoE team comp of Doom. We do have a Mumu ult into Nunu ult on the part of TSM Evo. If they are able to do that, it's going to be absolutely hilarious. Although it's going to be difficult to pull off, if they do manage to pull off a full Chano Nunu ult while Amumu is ulting, it's going to be pretty funny because every single person is going to die to that on Team Pentachill. On the other side, Pentachill does have quite a few ways to interrupt that. They have Nautilus with all of his crowd control. Lulu has a decent amount as well. Lulu's ultimate, her knockup, will interrupt a channeling ability. And of course, Kennen and Anivia both have stuns as well. So it's going to be a little bit difficult to get off that channeled Nunu ult. But if it does, it is going to wreck some people's faces.
If that Blitzcrank can land a silence on some of those characters, that's only going to prolong the amount of Nunu ult that Salsi can do. Taking a quick look at the rune page, we are going to see a solo top Bruiser Blitzcrank with 25 armor penetration on his rune page, and he is 1911 in masteries. I did take a look at Tangy times Ken. He's running move speed Quinn, so he could potentially kite Blitzcrank, but if he gets pulled, he only has armor seals, and the rest of him is magic penetration and ability power. So if Kennen gets pulled in the Blitzcrank, we could potentially see Blitzcrank's fist do a lot of damage to that poor little Yordle.
Especially if Blitz is able to build a little bit of cooldown reduction. That Power Fist is already on a short cooldown, so if you're able to build something like a Frozen Heart, along with, like I said, either Manamune or something like Trinity Force, that does mean that that thing is on an extremely short cooldown on the knockup. I believe it goes down to something like 2 seconds if you have max CDR. So we'll see. One way or the other, this game is going to be interesting to watch because we really don't know what's going to happen. I'm a little surprised that Evo's not playing this a little bit straighter just because I did think that Pentachill looked pretty solid in that first match, but we will see. We may perhaps be able to get this to a third match in this best of 3.
I think what Evo is doing is they did realize that they had the team fight dominance over Pentachill. So even though the team composition is a little trolly, they do have the AoE in order to fight those team fights, and I think in the team fights they are going to have an advantage. Just the amount of area of effects, silence, and crowd control they can have. Nunu ultimate, of course, is going to root everybody in place. A stun on Tarek, and don't forget, the ultimate on Varus is also going to bounce from target to target, rooting every single member of Pentachill in place. Pentachill did have a problem where they grouped up in those team fights, and Brand ultimate absolutely decimated them last game. So if Pentachill learned from that mistake and can spread out, the interesting team comp that TSM Evo here is running, probably not going to have the best time in the world, but if they do just get a little bit antsy and group together to go into those team fights, I think Evo might actually have a little bit of an advantage.
Well, Evo has the advantage of simply being professional players that have now played together and had the experience of playing in a major tournament, and that doesn't matter quite as much in lane, but it really does matter in the team fights when you spent a lot of time playing together. You know how each person likes to the individual play style of each player, where they tend to do. You can't always type or talk of every single little thing that you want to do. That's where the experience of having played together and played in big matches comes into favor there. So we'll see both teams have bought nearly identical items, but we do have the boots and 2 wards start on the Lulu player right there. So that's a more aggressive start, delaying the Fairy Charm, delaying your Philosopher's Stone right there. Otherwise, everybody boots 3 pots, pretty standard right now for starting items in League of Legends.
And it looks like TSM Evo identified that the Pentachill was going to be going for a blue steal. Amumu is a very blue-dependent jungler. He is going to need that to really power through with his Tantrum and his Despair tiers in order to farm through his jungle. So just completely bypassing the jungle invade. Looks like both teams are going to be going on their opponent's blue buffs, and that's just going to be how the game starts off. Scalaman on Nautilus is going to start off with a blue buff, so he's probably going to power through his jungle, potentially going for an early gank on middle or bottom lane if they show up in time. That is the main question here at these invades. Meanwhile, Amumu's just going to power through his jungle with a blue buff and then just do what he wants to do. Actually, it looks like they're going to reverse invade and just decide to go ward their enemy blue buff, and now with a minute 30 on the clock, they have 20 seconds left to get over to that blue buff before Pentachill is going to start on it, but I actually don't know what TSM Evo is doing here.
Pentachill should not be looking to level 1 fight here. TSM Evo has Taric and Blitz, which is a really, really strong level 1 team comp. They should not be looking to fight this. They need to get out of here, and this could go very badly for them. Let's see what happens.
I looks like Afromu found out the hard way that Anivia was in that bush where he ate a chunk of ice to the face. Tanking Time did recall back to the top lane, as did Wings of Death. So with that damage from Afromu, it looks like TSM Evo is not really going to be able to contest this blue buff. He just took a little bit too much damage at the beginning there from the stun and just all the auto attacks. So Nautilus will get away with this blue buff. Actually, looked like he wanted to finish it off with the lizard so that he could get a timer on it, but he's going to leave it completely alive. So there's going to be no reset on that blue buff. That could be very bad for TSM Evo. And he actually looks, no, he's not going to be going for a gank in the middle lane. He's just going to trudge over onto his own blue buff, try to stop Amumu from taking it. And this is going to be very interesting. Unstoppable did start with Despair, so he's going to be burning through a lot of mana on his Amumu build with boots and 3 health potions. I don't know if he's going to be able to take a lot of the jungle very quickly.
That's a really nice play for Pentachill. Taking that blue buff, leaving the one lizard is going to screw over Amumu pretty badly. Their jungler, Nautilus, he did want to finish that off just because it would have gotten him to level 2. That little lizard at the enemy team's blue buff would have gotten him to level 2. The reason why TSM Evo couldn't fight that is Wings of Death, their Blitz player, had already left and gone to top lane. So he was not there, which meant that they couldn't fight and they had to just give up their blue. So that ended up costing them, if Blitz had stayed with them a little bit longer and had not headed off the top, then they likely could have fought that and presumably would have won, just because Blitzcrank Grab and Taric Stun are so strong at level 1. Now, the team for Pentachill, not a terrible level 1 team. They did have the Anivia Stun, and Nautilus is not too bad. Nautilus and Graves are also pretty solid in level 1 fights. But, I mean, if somebody gets hooked into the enemy team, it's pretty much just all over. So Pentachill really played better in that little level 1 whole encounter there. They were able to get the blue away from Amumu, and they are able to get 2 blues onto Nautilus, so he's actually ahead.
Yeah, Namu looks like he actually had to go for a red buff. Nautilus coming for a gank, misses the dredge line, and Nivea will, however, land the stun. Saucy just juking through the bush. He is going to get tagged, though, by the staggering blow from Nautilus. Looks like with that blood blow, is going to be A-okay. Does have to burn the flash, though, so Nautilus does get a successful gank off by burning the flash. Amumu coming around towards his wolves. He actually has the red buff, but had to go back immediately, so he's only level 2 compared to Nautilus at level 3 right now. And as he's mentioned, he has picked up 2 blue buffs to Amumu's 0. And Amumu looks like the sad mummy is going to be even more upset when he comes over and he finds that one lone lizard. So Unstoppable, blue buffless for at least the next 5 minutes right now. So we're not even going to see a blue buff spawning for TSM Evo's jungle until about the 9 minute and 15 second mark, not 19 minutes. That's way too long for the blue buff spawns. But still, denying the resources, Pentachill could potentially have another very, very good early game.
Unstoppable is really, really far behind. Again, I think most people have played League of Legends a lot and probably heard this before, but Amumu is just so blue buff dependent. You take it away from him, and he just has so much trouble farming because he runs out of mana in like 30 seconds. So he's already had to recall once. He's going to have to recall again after he does his Golem camp here. And is this going to... I'm not sure this is going to take him to level 4. I'm not 100% sure. But he is really, really far behind Nautilus right now. So he's not going to be able to gank much in the early game. And indeed, no, it's not going to take him to 4. So he's had to back twice before he hit level 4. He's not going to hit 4 until about 5:30. So he is really far behind.
And we do see a lot of aggression on top lane. Wings of Death chasing down, actually flashing Indic for the kill on Kennen. He's going to take a lot of tower shots. The mana barrier procs, and that is a bad move from Wings of Death. Did not have the pull up at all, so he just decided to try to tower dive Kennen. Kennen with those move speed Quin's a little bit too fast with the lightning rush too. Able to bait Blitzcrank into tower diving and picks up first blood because of this. Meanwhile, on the bottom lane, we do see that Aphromoo and Taric have been pushed back to their tower a little bit. And I want to point out very quickly, Aphromoo going against his own Varus build. He's actually picked up 2 points in Piercing Arrow rather than maxing out the Blended Quiver first. For all you people that read those guides out there, I don't know. He's not following his own. So it's a very interesting predicament that they've been in right now. And TSM Evo, I don't know. Last game, we saw them falling apart at the early stages of the game to just the sheer gank presence of that Nocturne for Team Pentachill. But right now, they're doing basically the same thing. They're having a little bit of an awkward early game, but could they potentially come back in the late game? We're just going to have to find that out, Sola.
Evo's not in a great position right now. Bottom lane is actually pretty much dead even. Haven't seen any real difference. Both champions pretty much on equal minion kills. Not really a whole lot of difference there. But for Evo, their jungler is really far behind. Unstoppable has just managed to hit level 4. He is going to have to go back to base again soon. He's just done the simple jungle route. He's done wolves, wraiths, golems, and he's going to have to go back to base again for the 3rd time already in 6 minutes. So he's just so far behind. Meanwhile, on top lane, Tangy Time with that first blood has really helped him out. He was in a little bit of trouble. He was getting bullied around a little bit, but that first blood helps him out tremendously. It was a great reaction time. Wings of Death flashed in. Tangy Time just immediately flashed back before he could get hit with a power fist. So really nicely played right there. Anivia has almost gotten past her early weak levels. She's taking a lot of damage to that snowball, is behind in lane, not tremendously, but is definitely behind. Definitely needs to get that blue buff when it respawns, which it will in about 1 minute because they didn't take the blue immediately when it spawned. But now that DC Buddha is level 6, he'll be able to farm much more easily because he can just turn on his ultimate and he doesn't have to get that close to Salsi. Salsi, though, has been putting on some really good harass with that snowball. He deals, if you highlight this skill, he deals about 200 damage every time that it comes off of cooldown, and he can cast it for free when he auto attacks due to Nunu passive. So he's been putting on a lot of pressure there in mid. But as we said in the staging room, AP Nunu, yeah, he's great in lane, but then what happens after you get out of the laning phase? Well, he doesn't really do that much. So and we'll see how that goes. But I would say that Pentachill's in a pretty good position right now. As long as they can just keep farming these lanes, they're in pretty good shape.
Ooh, looks like Salsi is going to pop that Nunu ultimate. He's actually going to make DC Buddha burn that flash, and Buddha is going to go back because of this. But Salsi, with that Blood Boil and the positioning on his snowballs, he's just doing a really great job of zoning out Anivia. Meanwhile, we see it in the top lane. Wings of Death getting extremely low, going up against Tangy Time. He is going to take down Tangy Time this time. That 58 mana on the mana shield, keeping him alive. So it was a either very well executed or a very lucky play from Wings of Death in the top lane there, as we did see he and Kennen continuing to trade blows in that top lane from time to time. Meanwhile, then Amumu did go back. He actually had to sell one of his 3 health potions he had to pick up a Philosopher's Stone on that, what was the 2nd or 3rd back he's gotten so far. He is only level 5, taking his 2nd red buff. Nautilus actually level 5 too, has his own Philosopher's Stone. Taking a quick look at the money in the bank, he does have 600 saved up though, so he is still just a little bit ahead of Amumu. Amumu's doing a really great job of catching up though, has to go back yet again, but Nautilus really hasn't been ganking all too often or really pushing any sort of advantage out of the jungle.
No, the one difference is that Scanton Man, the Nautilus player, has now hit 6, and he is going to be able to get his Heart of Gold really soon when he goes back to base. So it looks like he's picked bottom lane as the lane to try to focus. Bottom lane is basically dead even. There's no difference in here right now. One thing that you can point out, though, is he could perhaps be, instead of ganking bottom lane, he could potentially have looked to finish clearing his jungle route. He could have gone to race, then to wolves, and then go to blue and be getting blue for his mid, just because Anivia is one of the most blue-dependent APs. Instead, he's not really achieving that much down here in bot, but if he's able to pull off a successful gank, it will all be worthwhile. So we'll just have to see what he's able to do. Oh, he stepped out of the brush down there in bottom lane.
It looks like they might be going for a tower dive. They do know that Taric had gone back. The depth charge actually lands on Aphromoo despite flashing. Meanwhile, we see Wings of Death pick up a kill in the top lane on Kennen. Grade's ultimate goes off. Aphromoo is going to fall to Nautilus, and they actually see Amumu coming in here to try to counter that gank. So actually knowing that the the support character was gone and the range carry was all by himself, just opting to go for a tower dive. No one took all too much damage. We did see in the top lane though, Blitzcrank That poor Kennen is just getting bullied around by nothing but armor pen on that Blitzcrank. And interestingly enough, he's leveling up his rocket grab, which has an ability power ratio, as opposed to going for either cooldown reduction on the power fist or maxing out overdrive for more auto attacks with the armor penetration. So a very interesting Blitzcrank build, and it's actually working for Wings of Death in top lane.
It looks like top lane has been the weakest lane for Pentachill in both games. Both games, Wings of Death has really gotten ahead just in laning matchup. He really should have gotten the first blood in this match until he messed up his flash under the tower. So for whatever reason, Tangy Time is just not having a good day. Just not having a good day here in this particular matchup. Has really struggled here against Wings of Death. And at this point, it looks like the Wings of Death is just going to snowball ahead at this point. He's leading once again in farm. He has now picked up Sheen, one of the key items for Blitz, whether he's building support or AP or really whatever. Just such a great item on him because of the way it scales with this passive. I am indeed surprised that Power Fist is not being leveled up, so perhaps this is some kind of an AP Blitz build, which would be extremely unorthodox, but maybe that's what he's going for, since he is maxing up, as you said, that Rocket Fist first.
It's very interesting. I think he could possibly... He does have a Null Magic Mantle, but he only has level 1 boots right now, so he's probably going to be turning those into Mercury Treads. He could be going for Trinity Force, and just the amount of damage that could get a burst when he does pull Kennen could be enough to really just put up an argument for leveling the Rocket Grab first. Nunu in the middle, though. Anivia does have a blue buff. Ignite goes down. She is going to get egged right there. Nunu not taking a lot of damage. One thing that Salsi does have over most AP mids playing that Nunu is a lot of HP. So even though Anivia has that blue buff, was able to get the critical strike on her Frostbite, there was just not enough damage to really stop Nunu from just throwing snowballs and auto-attacking the Anivia down into egg form. With the blue buff now, Salsi did pick that up on the delay, and that is another thing we forgot to point out. Nautilus delayed the enemy team's blue buff for so long by keeping that lizard alive, and Amumu did not clear it out until the 4 minute and 15 second mark, but they did not give Anivia the blue, so now the blue timers are relatively even on the middle, so there's no advantage from that.
Got a fight going on bottom.
Yeah, bottom lane, we do see that Lulu is actually getting a lot of damage after taking the Tarek stun. She is going to ult herself to try to save here. Graves is continuing to go down on Afromu, though. Varus getting very low. He does not look like he's going to fall. Lulu's actually going to fall here. The Curse of the Sad Mummy goes off to no avail. Lulu is already dead. Graves is going to get out of there barely, as it looks like Amumu missed the bandage toss there, and Afromu's arrow was not enough to take him down. Scala Man has come down here just to run around in circles and deter anybody from trying to push the tower too hard. But still, TSM Evo now, their jungler didn't really make too much of a difference there, but I think the key misstep from Pentachill in the bottom lane there was Lulu burning the ultimate on herself when she was actually out of fight range.
That's exactly right, Tom. Lulu misplayed the ult. I'm not going to write you, used ult on Lulu when it actually wasn't needed. If the ult needed to go on to Graves, and if that had come out at the right time and gotten the knock-up, then they would definitely have won that fight. We also had a really nice exhaust coming out from Nat Nguyen, the Taric support player on TSM Evo. He used his exhaust at just the right moment, just when it looked like Graves was going to get the kill. All of a sudden, his damage is cut to nothing, and the result of that fight, Evo is able to take a dragon in the aftermath of that encounter.
Yeah, so a kill and a dragon in favor of TSM Evo. 3 kills to 2 now. They still have about a 2,000 gold advantage. No towers have yet to be taken, but they're having a lot stronger of an early game than they did last game, which is interesting because this composition, you wouldn't think it really worked, but just the teamwork from TSM Evo coming out with those bottom lanes and the top lane just Wings of Death somehow dominating Tangy Times Kennen with that Blitzcrank build. It's just really working out in their favor, and I don't really know what the difference is from last game right now.
The difference from last game is just that top lane is snowballed ahead once again for TSM Evo, but the jungle ganks haven't been there. Nautilus really, I mean, he made the play in bottom lane, but other than that, we haven't seen Nautilus too much. He really hasn't done a whole lot in this game, and so even though Amumu has been really weak, Pentachill did a great job of shutting down Amumu. So even though Amumu hasn't really made himself felt on this game, Nautilus hasn't really made himself felt on this game too much either. And so that's really the difference, because in last game, if you remember, when we saw that last game, Pentachill's Nocturne jungler was just really ganking everywhere all over the map and did a really nice job of that. And we haven't really seen that same pressure, although once again, right now, we do have that ult coming out in bottom lane. Yeah,
depth charge goes down onto Afromu's Varus. He is going to get back in the tower range. They decide to deal some damage on the Nat Nguyen's Taric, but it doesn't look expect it's going to be too much. Actually, Dark Knight Gray's taking a lot of damage there, as is Varus arrows. When maximum range have a 1.7 AD ratio, and even at shortest range, it's a 1.1 AD ratio. So with Aphromoo on 134 damage, he is going to be dealing a lot with those arrows. We do meanwhile see that Salsi is going to pick up a kill on Anivia while running through, it looks like behind her tower towards the jungle. So all this pressure is on the bottom lane, Salsi just being super tanky and leveling up Consume to level 4. He is just constantly taking tower shots, taking aggression, eating a minion, and then being a-okay with whatever's gone on in the past couple fights. We do see
Salsi got the kill with his Ignite there. That's why it was so far back behind the tower.
And we do see here that Salsi actually going to come in. The Mumu ultimate and Nunu ultimate go off on the Scalaman. Easy and Oracle's Elixir too. That is going to go down. So Salsi picks up a kill there as they are just continuing to press this advantage over Pentachill right now. And despite looking super strong last game, Pentachill seems to be falling apart in their strongest part of the game.
There we see the combination of the Amumu ult and the Nunu ult right there, getting frozen in place for 2 seconds while Nunu's channeling that ult duration. And when an AP Nunu is channeling that, it just deals so much damage. Absolutely incredible damage. Now, Tom, if you have a chance running the camera, if there's nothing going on in some other lanes, just try to watch mid for a minute or so and watch how Salsi is harassing DC Buddha's Anivia. He just throws out a snowball, takes a little bit of damage on the trade, and then immediately consumes a creep, and then he just keeps doing that over and over and over again. It's the most annoying thing to watch in lane over and over again. We actually do have a kill up in top lane. Wings of Death able to pick that one off. But AP Nunu, again, it's a very strong laning build. It's something you don't see that often because, again, it's not that useful out of lane, but very difficult to deal with in lane. Morgana is just about the only counter that I can think of. Maybe Morgana and Galio, perhaps, are about the only champs. But again, no one snowball deals that much damage, but the combination of many snowballs and consumes just allows you to sustain in lane and harass the other enemy over and over again. DC Buddha is not having a particularly fun time in mid.
No, he really isn't. Despite being, the Cryo Phoenix there being entirely made of ice, he is actually suffering a lot of damage. That cooldown on the ice ball is actually only 5.64 seconds too, so Salsi's able to spam those in lane. Like you said, he's just really dodging Anivia's spells, running around with a level 1 Blood Boil. The extra movement speed is letting him dodge whenever she puts the ultimate down, so he's not taking critical strike damage from Frostbite. Actually, there's going to be a little engage here. Nautilus pulls Natnuin into the tower, but not too much is going to get done. Aphromoo did get stunned by Anivia, but they just were not able to go in on this right now. Afraid of Salsi. It looks like actually we see out of the corner of our eye over there, Kennen was coming down to help, but Wings of Death just immediately shut him down with a pull and an ultimate and just dealing a little bit extra damage. Actually couldn't even pan over in time because that's how quickly Kennen fell to Blitzcrank.
So unfortunate there. Blitzcrank is going now. Looks like he's going for that Trinity build. One of the things that we see here is after TSM Evo goes ahead and takes the bottom tower. Oh, we actually have an initiation right here. Natwin getting caught. Let's see if he manages to find his way out of this. He does get slowed by Lulu right there. Oh, he gets walled by Anivia, but here comes the cavalry. A Mumu ult. Right now, we're going to see that Nunu ult as well. There comes the Lulu ult getting the knockup right now. We've got a nice team fight going on here as more people enter the fight. Aphromoo getting in here as well. There is a red buff on that Amumu, so it is slowing, and right there they are going to pick this off, and here comes the Nunu ult going to get channeled, and that is just going to blow up the kill on Anivia, and that is going to make it out of there with no trouble. So reinforcements did arrive coming in to save Tark. One of the things I was trying to mention is we saw that the bottom lane tower go down here, and so immediately once that happens, Evo shifts their focus to mid, and they try to take that tower next, and that's why the pressure shifted there.
Tanky Time actually coming in here, trying to deal some damage. Using the 2 versus 1 against Amumu and Varus. That does not work out in his favor. He is just going to fall right then and there. And that was actually a very good chain of corruption from Aphromoo, catching the members, catching the Anivia in addition to one more member from Pentachill there. Anivia got immediately egged after that, and then, well, we just saw the destruction that Salty was able to deal with his needlessly large rod on his ability power Nunu build, instantly taking down the egg from full to nothing. So that is a very powerful Nunu right now. They are going to come in here and take this blue buff away. Blitzcrank actually is going to claim it for himself. That Blitzcrank right now, that build's interesting. 114 damage, and he builds straight armor penetration. Only 25 ability power, but he's dealing so much with those pulls and his ultimate that it's almost like he's dealing magic and regular damage. Wade in this bush over here, runs into DC Buddha, and I'm not going to ride you. He actually misses a pull there, so he is going to have to get away. But, you know, he just has that overdrive. He can just pop it right here. He's going to proc his Sheen just in case he needs to get into a fight. He's just going to run away because right now Anivia and Lulu, despite the movement speed buff, Nautilus even coming in here, they're just too slow of champions. A flash goes off, though. They do tag Wings of Death, but Wings of Death is immediately going to flash and get out of there. So despite all their best efforts there, Wings of Death just escapes and I was going to halt myself for a minute because it looked like he was running back in, but he is going to escape this time, and he's just going to fall back to his tower, and he's just doing a great job on that solo top Blitzcrank.
It's just too difficult to catch up to Blitzcrank once he pops that overdrive and starts to run away. We now actually see the Deathfire Grasp coming in onto that AP Nunu, and the champions are going to converge on from TSM Evo onto Kennen up here in top lane, and I don't think Tangy Time is going to make it out of this one. We'll see what he does. He actually running under the tower, taking tower shots on top of everything else. And poor Tangy Time, 1-6 on the game. If you look at the gold total, he's extremely underfarmed. He has less gold than anyone else in the game except his own support. And he only just barely has more gold than the support. We actually also have a fight going on down here in bottom lane. Aphromoo taking a lot of damage right here. He is getting slowed. Dark Knight also so low, but he's going to be able to survive with the Lulu ult onto him. Let's see if Aphromoo is going to be able to make it out of here. He's continuing to stick around in the fight. I'm not sure why he did that. One Glitter Lance will finish him off right there. And I'm not going to write you, is going to run back under the tower, but this may be a dangerous place for Lulu to be.
Look at the HP gain back from Salty. That's going to throw a snowball and then pop the ultimate and take the kill as he just stops channeling at the exact precise moment. I thought Salty was kind of low, runs behind the tower, consumes a creep, and gets back to basically half HP, so he was fine for that as they just dive down on Lulu and pick up another kill. It looks like Tangy Time's going to try to do something. Mumu and Nunu are kind of low right here. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. Ultimate goes off. He's just not dealing any damage right now. Dark Knight will come back in and pick up a kill on the tower. Looks like Salty though is going to take down Kennen before Graves is able to pick up a double kill. And look at Unstoppable running away from Nautilus. Nautilus with his skills just barely off cooldown. Blitzcrank now comes in, knocks him up into the air. I don't think they're going to be able to catch up to Nunu here. Look at Dark Knight taking all the damage from Blitzcrank. He's attacking so fast with that overdrive. Level 5 now. That's just so much. He does have the Trinity Force. Very good point, Sola. All the damage coming out and pulls a Nivea. Nivea trying to wall him off, but did not get a very good wall. Unstoppable just doing all the help he can with no mana and no health. And that is 2 kills now for Blitzcrank. Now flashing in to go in onto Lulu. I'm not going to Raichu taking a lot of damage. Unstoppable once again coming in for 1 tantrum. And that is going to be enough as Raichu tries to chase him down. Wings of Death legendary on his solo top Blitzcrank. Trinity Force in hand. He is just dominating Team Pentachill right now.
Unstoppable, the Amumu player, also does have mobility boots, so that's one of the reasons why he was able to just keep running. Once he's out of combat for, what is it, I believe 5 seconds, his movement speed picks up, and they're just not going to catch him. So a lot of very fast champions right now on TSM Evo, between the Blitzcrank, between that, and right now Amumu going back in right there, going to pick off another kill right there. Aphromoo going to claim that one, and this game is starting to turn very, very far against Pentachill, starting to turn into a little bit of the Lapper phase here.
Yeah, just a little bit. We did see Aphromoo with a nice Chanted Crush, and as soon as Kennen tried to Lightning Lush in, Salty, though, a little overextension there. He does consume a minion, but tower shots deal a little bit more damage than most of the damage he's taken in this game. Unstoppable gets exhausted, but keeping that flash up goes over the wall. Nat Nguyen's going to go in here. Actually, look at Aphromoo just immediately egging DC Buddha, but he is actually going to follow the Mind Power. Gray's actually picking up a lot of kills right now. Unstoppable does eventually go down after not going back for the longest amount of time as Nautilus picks up a kill onto Amumu. 4-1 on Graves right now. He is a lot of the damage. Once again, Dark Knight, the AD player for Team Pentachill, really doing all the damage he can to help out his team. Looks like Nautilus is going to pop the Titan's Wrath shield, try to get under the turret, but no avail. He is going to Dredgeline out of there. And I don't think they're going to be able to go down onto Nat Nguyen's tower here. They may try to push the tower or maybe back off and just go back to the laning phase. I don't think that's the smartest move right now, as Pentachill is just super behind right now. 34k to 26k, 18 kills to 8, and they are down 4 towers right now. And this Blitzcrank continuing to roam around with double buff now. Has an additional Zeal on top of his Trinity Force. That Blitzcrank is super fast right now, Sola.
And Pentachill probably, if they're still trying to win the game, and I'm not sure that they are because they've been throwing out some surrender votes here that haven't gone through, but they probably should have gone and tried to do Dragon right there. Dragon was up, and they could have taken it. They did have 4 members of their team right there. Still, their overall position is not great. The only reason they won that last fight is Evo just being a little bit too much troll, diving into the enemy base, fighting when they didn't have numbers. Right now, Tangy Time getting caught out once again. Blitz with all that movement and a red buff. I don't think he's going to be able to get out of this. Tangy Time does pop his Lightning Rush, but again, Blitz is just so fast. Is he going to be able to run this down? He does get stunned by Kennen's ultimate. Is he going to be able to get this? There's an angry robot on your tail. Can you get out of there? No, not going to make it out. So Wings of Death continuing to go legendary right there. And again, that top lane has just gone really, really poorly for Pentachill in this particular game.
Yeah, as you mentioned before, last game it was a weak spot for Pentachill, and they were able to supplement it with the Nocturne gank. Nautilus not being as fast of a jungler, not just letting his presence known on the map nearly as much as he did on the Nocturne from last game, as bottom tower falls down here to Aphromoo. He just wasn't able to just really make up for the fact that top lane was spiraling out of control in favor of TSM Evo, and we saw just how much work Nocturne was doing last game and the amount of damage that Blitzcrank was able to deal out of the top lane in this game number 2. So a very, very good positioning from Wings of Death. Very good spot for TSM Evo. Looks like they could potentially take down this bottom tower. They are possibly go onto the inhibitor right now. I really don't know what Pentachill can do to really defend against this. Once again, Wings of Death just not with this team, but they are not able to really do anything. Nautilus is just taking shots from Varus. I don't think he's really able to go in on anything. Smokescreen does go down from Graves. Looks like a flash and a pull down onto Aphromoo, but he gets stunned by the Dazzle. The rest of the team, meanwhile, is going to go and curse the set. He goes off. They try to focus down Graves. He gets the Lulu ultimate. Even that looks like to be not enough. A lot of damage do go down onto Nunu and Tarek, but Blitzcrank comes in and gets a triple kill with one ultimate. That is going to be a quadra kill now, as everybody except for Kennen on Pentachill is dead right now. Wings of Death, is he going to go for the Penta? No, there's not going to be no Pentakill, as it looks like that Pentachill has enough of that fight. TSM Evo going to take the match 2-0, Sulla.
No, that one, unlike the first game, this one really just wasn't that close. Not really that even of a match. TSM Evo getting out ahead, and that top lane was sheer utter destruction, with Wings of Death going legendary in the game. And there just wasn't a whole lot that Pentachill could do in that game. They looked good for about 5 minutes, and after that, it just all went horribly wrong, and were not able to overcome the strength of TSM Evo.
No, it was just a little bit too much Evo dominance in that game. We did see Unstoppable, despite having one of the slowest starts on a jungle from Namumu I've seen in a long time, wound up going 0-1-14, having 7.2k gold. He only had less gold than Graze on Team Pentachill in that game. Aphrodite's Varus is doing a really great job, despite being a little bit behind in experience. TSM Evo started from behind so much in this game because of the jungle invades, just like last game. But like we mentioned throughout the entirety of the match, Nautilus did not let his presence known on the map nearly as much as he did when Scalaman was playing that Nocturne, and it really worked against Pentachill, as the early ganks and the map presence were just really their strength, and they pulled through in the early game, survived, and did a really good job into the middle game. But the late game, they just fell apart. In game number 2, they did not have that early game like kickstart, and it just continued to spiral down from there.
No, they fell apart pretty quickly in this game. They were ahead. They did score the first blood of the game. They did successfully invade. The jungler, as you said, Amumu Unstoppable, the jungle Amumu for TSM Evo, he was very far behind. I mean, he had to recall, what, 4 times in the first couple minutes of the game. But this game was won in top lane and was won in middle lane. Those are the 2 lanes that snowballed very, very far ahead. And I say snowball as Nunu was being played AP in mid. But those are the 2 lanes that were dominant. Wings of Death, he had 1 death on the game. That was him diving for a tower to get a kill and not getting it and giving up first blood. He went 13-0 after that, completely shut down Kennen. And Salsi was dominant in mid. I mean, he did have the 2 deaths, but he just completely bullied around DC Buddha. DC Buddha 0-5, never really did anything in that match. So this game was 1 in top and it was 1 in mid. Bottom lane was pretty much even, not really much of a difference there. But top and mid just got so far ahead that there was nothing they can do. And when 2 of your solos are shut down that badly, you're probably not going to win the game.
No, unfortunately you are not. So TSM Evo is going to take a 2-0 victory, despite Pentachill looking super, super strong in game number 1. They just weren't able to hold on to it, and not able to hold on to it through game number 2. So TSM Evo is going to advance into the IPL5 League of Legends qualifications tournament. Sulla, I think that's about it we have for tonight. I'm not getting word that we have any more matches, so I think we're going to sign out right now. Anything else you want to say about these matches or anything before we head out?
No, just want to thank everybody for coming out and watching us, supporting us. Hope you guys enjoyed the cast, and tune in later because we'll have more qualifiers later this week.
Yes, we will indeed. So stay tuned to twitch.tv/IPLLOL. If you're not following it already, I don't know what is wrong with you. You should definitely click that follow button. We will be back a little bit later for more IPL qualification matches, probably sometime later in the week or next week. So Sulla, thank you so much for casting with me. It's been a pleasure and an honor, and hopefully we'll get more exciting games like this as we go through the qualifications.
All right, thank you, Tom. Thanks to everybody for watching.
All right, guys, we are going to play the IPL outro. We will be out of here. Thanks once again for tuning in, guys.